one, and we are live with Wendell Fields,
Woo!
mental health expert from United States. Hello, Wendell. How you doing?
What's going on? How y'all doing in good old Italy?
Oh, we're fine. It's very cold, but it's okay. We got jackets and these winter caps and
Hey, hey, I'm right there with you.
sweatshirts.
I'm right there with you. I got my cap on the side and a heavy, heavy coat too.
So you are in Atlanta just now, and it's bloody
It's
cold. Huh? Is it what is it
whew,
snowing? Is it
well, it's much better now. Yesterday and the day before, it was sort of warm. We was up in the 60s and 50s. So now it's gone back down. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, Wendell? I'm really curious to hear your story. Can you first of all introduce yourself? Tell me something about you. What is it you do? And basically, what's your story?
All righty. Well, my name is Wendell Fields, and I am a high utilization management navigator for Viewpoint Health Organization, as well as I'm a field care consultant with the Behavioral Health Link in Georgia. And all that I do in those positions is with the navigator, I try to help people get connected to providers with services for them so that it can reduce the number of hospitalizations and also the use of like crisis stabilization units. And so it's for mainly mental health. And we try to lower the person going into those type of services because it can be hard on the taxpayers' money that way. So we want to link them up to services that help stabilize them more and helping us stay in the community as well as work with the community more. So we're trying to do some teaching skills with that. Now with the
So
crisis,
basically, for a non-expert, what I understand, you are kind of a mental health consultant. You'll have people that talk to you, and you address them to the right services. Um,
mhm,
is that
that is
correct?
correct. That is correct. And I sort of like hold their hand and connect them to those services out in the community and try to show them and explain to them how to use that service so that they can basically learn and be independent as much as possible with that particular service, if that makes sense. Does that make sense for you?
Yes, it kind of does. And I want to
Okay,
get
okay.
into as to why you chose this field, and what's the journey that brought you there. Um,
Well, believe it or not, man, I was going to be a veterinarian. I was going to be a veterinarian here in the United States, and my sister got me onto psychology, and she studied psychobiology, and I thought it was just so impressive. I was like, man, let me try this psychology stuff. But then also the reason why I got into the field of psychology was because my mom was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And in that, she had her highs and she had her lows. So she had a lot of energy at some point in time, but then it would go to a point of her feeling depressed, not wanting to get out of bed. And it fluctuated back and forth, back and forth. And so bipolar disorder can be disruptive to a person functionality. And it brought me to a point of wanting to study psychology more. And
so
so
you
that's what
was
I did. I got
excuse me, like you was a kid when your mother was going through this, or did it affect you somehow, or just having a parent that was at time very energetic, another time just needing for care and attention? Was that impactful for you?
well for me,
Was it painful?
it was painful because sometimes my mom would do things that we were just like, whoa, where did that come from? And the things of not sleeping is a part of the bipolar disorder. And how that not sleeping, having that burst of energy, the emotional piece. My mom would be happy one moment and then sad the next, crying. She could be bitter. She could be angry, and it took a toll on me. My sister had went to
So
college at this
basically,
time.
from what I understand, and I don't, I'm not a specialist. It's sort of
Mhm.
kind of when someone has a bipolar disorder, it's kind of your emotion are off the roof. You don't know where your emotion are going. You don't know if 1 minute that this person may feel, in this case, your mother, may feel happy and full of energy, but like 5 minutes, like within 5 minutes, kind of like the weather. It's sunny 1 minute, the next minute it's rainy, and the world is falling apart. And 5 minutes later, she's stable, or and then you can have maybe 1 or 2 days where it feels fantastic, and then it's back again. So it's sort of your emotional off the roof. You can control that. I'm curious to
Yes, that
enter there because I'm a meditation practitioner. I do a lot of breathing and a lot of. I started just with the breathing, and then eventually I pivoted into yoga, and I realized that really what helped. It helped me. First of all, it helped me cope with stress, with working hard, etc. It helped my memory. I can remember things like pretty well. And I was looking at a documentary. I think it's on Netflix, and they was talking about how it actually expands some areas of your memory. So really my memory was sometimes it was maybe because I have to put a lot of data inside, but now I can realize like I can remember things, like I have like a really good photographic memory. I remember places I've been, faces, etc. That wasn't, and and also my ability to learn, and overall it has calmed me down. I want to ask, in the mental health field, is there at least some experimental, are they experimenting with meditation, or things like that, just breathing in, or some of these new techniques, or how it works from an insider?
well for me, and I'm talking about for me, it's a holistic approach for me. So not only do I take, because I myself am in long term recovery with depression. I found out, and in that, because of history with my mom being bipolar, my chemistry in my body, when it comes to being happy and all of that, my chemical balance is low. So in that, I take
Well,
medication
I
to
would
help
like
me.
I write you take meditation to help you, and you have disorders. So actually, because you said your sister studied chemistry of psychology, something like that, so it has something to do with your chemistry. Somehow trauma, from what I understand, affects the chemistry of your body. Or for example, the traumatic experience of having your mother being a bipolar somehow affected you. It messed up your chemistry in your body, so that you get depressed, because it is is that correct?
For
Or
me,
how that for you?
yes. Now it's different strokes for different folks. Now, not it might not apply. What's applying to me might not apply to someone else. But I can say with that it was something to do with my um, connection with that. So with me, um, I have a chemical imbalance as far as with my emotions, and so therefore I take medications to correct that matter. And in
that
that,
that 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 stuff affects your hormones, sort of your stress hormones, your chemistry in the body. It basically
mhm,
messes you up, right? Kind of like could be like PST, or people who went through
it
traumatic
can.
experience.
Hmm.
Maybe your
It,
anxiety level as you're a kid. Let's say you're 12, 15, 9, or 10. There's a moment where they go off the roof, like they go crazy. Your anxiety, stress level go crazy, and somehow that shuts down your body or shuts down some areas. And now you have to kind of rebalance. You have to rebalance shit to get back in shape.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And in that, it's just like I said, I have to approach my health and wellness in a holistic approach. So when you're talking about yoga and meditation, that can help me, but it will not solve it for me, if that makes sense. Does that help?
Okay, it will help you, it will make you better, it will, but that strategy on that yoga or meditation will only help you if it is within a strategy, within a holistic strategical approach, because it has something to do not just with your mindset, not just with being motivated, or or having maybe even having a coach that tells you do this, do that, do that. It is really to do with some chemicals in your body, some
For
things that you
me,
can actually measure. That has, yeah, that we're talking about, you things that you can actually measure, that's non just related to your mind, like it's related to some areas of your body.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So in that, so not only do I take medication, but for me, man, I have to eat. And I don't mean just eat, but I mean I have to eat healthy, because if I don't, those chemicals get imbalanced again, because most of our vitamins, minerals, and things of that nature come from eating healthy. But then that's not the only thing. You got to drink water. I know it's juice out there. I know that it's Coca-Cola out there, coffee, teas, and all of that. But for health reasons, I drink a lot of water. I have to. And that helps keep my body um, hydrated. My skin does better, because as I'm telling you this, there's a reason why I'm connecting all the pieces of this together.
So
Okay.
I wanna enter here. It's interesting when we talk about food, and it's interesting when we talk about vitamins, and so I don't know. Look. I'm not an expert, but I'm just saying that is it possible that for people who are not eating healthy, people who are not getting maybe enough sleep because they are
Oh, because
overworking.
that's
Okay.
because that's another thing
Now
I'm going
if
to
you
talk about is not sleeping.
Yeah, and let's say like a normal person, no trauma, 2.0, perfect family, etc. Center point of their life, they're not sleeping, they're working crazy amounts of hours, they're eating rubbish, maybe fast food, etc. Or maybe they have some trauma that's laying there. They don't even realize from when they were kids or something. Now you're not eating well, you're not sleeping, you're forgetting about your water. Maybe you're going through some tough moments. I don't know, some just happen in your life. The fact that you're not eating, that you don't have appropriate bacteria in your stomach, that you don't have all the things that's aligned, that may affect your psychological condition. And, it may fuck around with your brain. So for all these people that's eating fast food, and I think there's an interesting point there. Go ahead, Wendell. I'm not the expert. I really would like for you to go deep in this subject. It's really fascinating.
And so you got to eat right. You got to drink healthy. And but then also you talked about sleep. And here it is about sleep. I myself have sleep apnea. So that means that when I go to sleep, I literally stop breathing. And in that, my either my tongue gets in the way of when I'm sleeping, but I literally stop breathing, and the oxygen level in my body goes down. Okay. And in that, my concentration is bad. I'm irritable more. I can't focus on things.
So we,
And
we are talking the next day or the next week. For example, you're trying to take a test, you're trying to do some shit you don't even know, and this shit not sleeping properly affects you. And I would like again to say, I believe there are some things you can buy on Amazon that help you, like it's some electronics. You put it in your
Mhm.
nose, and they kind of push some air in there. And another thing that there is a particular breathing that I'm trying. Okay, that's kind of if you lay down on a pillow. Okay, I don't know if this is not medical, like, but what I do before I go to sleep, because I've heard about apnea and shit. I just get on the pillow on this, like, kind of, you have a fucking yoga pillow, okay, and then you kind of breathe in and you try to like, expand your chest. So you try to you work like for fucking like maybe 20 minutes on really breathing in, and you're by doing this, it's kind of I don't know, maybe it
Get more
stresses your
oxygen.
lung, it expands your kind of your torso. It really expands it because it's an exercise. Like you can really feel your torso doing this. It's opening and
Mhm.
closing, opening and closing. So your lungs are getting slightly bigger, the torso is getting bigger. So that may help a lot, like for when you go to sleep, and before you go to sleep, you do that. And it helped me, for example, in the winter time when you have maybe your nose is a little bit cloaked because you got some cold or anything, that really opens up. Or sometimes when you have a little cold, I try that. You do it, when you go to sleep, you have a cold. Like I do
Hmm.
that for like 10-15 minutes. It really helped me through the night. Okay, because I believe that sleep apnea, it's pretty common. Like people don't even know, and I believe it's really common, like among a lot of people. And then one thing that can happen is the next day you see them totally fucked up, like they have like a face like they haven't rest, they haven't slept properly. It really messes you up. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, one.
No, you're doing good, and I'm glad that we're communicating like this because, like I said, I got sleep apnea, and in one I did a sleep study, and in one night, no, about in 4 hours of this sleep study, I stopped breathing 269 times, and so I was just like, oh my goodness. So what I use now is a machine called a CPAP machine, and in that it continuously blows air through my nostrils and goes through my body so that I can sleep. Okay. So one those are some of the things that help, but here we go. For me, you got to do something that's recreational that you like to do that gives you greatness, that shows your grit, and that just shows your genius, your ability to create stuff or be creative. And in that, I do a lot of writing. Yeah, I go to the gym and I pump up my body and I run and all of that.
But
But yet,
I'm just thinking before, apart from the breathing, you think that maybe jogging or having a walk after you eat, after you have dinner, before you go to
can
sleep,
help.
just expanding that, just getting that breathing going on, just before you go to sleep, doing that, could that help?
It can help, but now also remember if you go for a walk, it's going to cause your heart to pump up a little bit more. And yet you're exercising, you're trying to go straight to sleep. Your body has to sort of like calm down a little bit to go to sleep. So that's the sort of like the balance you have to use there with that. Okay. And so with that, I do something that's recreational for me. Like I said, I like to write. I like to journal. I like to go to the gym. I like to do something that helps me to be creative about how I want to um, communicate or interact with others or with myself. Hey, I love to cook. I'll get up there and I'll look at a recipe and duplicate how to cook the recipe well to the point of, hey, I did that. It doesn't stop. My creativity doesn't stop. You know, it's just something that helps me to continue to grow in my ability to learn and execute. Okay. So it's important for me to do that recreational stuff. But the last thing that helps me to be me is I search for resources that help me as well as supports in my community online and in other areas. Those things are going to help me to stay stable for me, you know, like me and you hooking up.
So
I mean, that's
just talking to people, feeling the support of the community, like around you, talking to people, feeling like you're a member of a community. That kind of helps you for you. And
yes.
including because we're living also many time in big cities, no, so you can feel kind of
Yes.
disconnected, like especially there's nowadays, so people get totally disconnected, then maybe your mindset totally breaks down, you start to feel alone, nobody wants to be with me, whatever, it's all fucked up, and you really you put that yourself in that spot. But anyway, I believe like depression, it's like we're not talking here about a mild depression. Like, can you explain some
We,
what depression is? Like, because I heard it gets pretty bad. Like to the point you don't want to get out of your bed. You don't feel like doing anything. Like you're totally kaput. Mm.
so when it comes to depression, we're talking about not just the blues. Oh, I got, I broke up with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or those type of things. This thing lasts over 2 weeks. Okay. We're talking about over 2 weeks of feeling depressed, not motivated, not wanting to do anything. You're not even taking care of your personal hygiene. So we're already starting to go down. And so of our daily functioning. Okay. So you might get up and you might take a shave, shower, all of that. You might eat. You might go out into the community, say hey to friends, visit, all that. But for a person who becomes depressed and it's a continual thing more than 2 weeks, I mean, you're not taking care of yourself. Your hair is growing everywhere. You haven't shaved. You haven't, pampered and trimmed and groomed yourself well. You're not your personal hygiene is off. You're not taking showers. You're not using deodorant. You're not eating properly. You're not visiting. You're not calling. You're not connecting with people. You're just mainly sad. You might have crying spells. You might not get out the bed. You just might. The only time you possibly might get up is possibly to use the restroom. You know, but then after that, you're getting back in your bed and you're not going to work. You're not doing anything. So that's when it's getting pretty bad. But then it gets worse than that when you are starting to feel and think the world would be better without me, or I'm a burden to everybody else, or I'm not a man, I'm not a woman. I think that I should leave this earth and I'm tired. I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of the hurt. And I'm tired of all these other things. That's when it's getting pretty bad because now you're going towards that suicide and thinking about taking your life type of stuff. And that's when we have to look in, check in, and
Talking
start really looking at.
about chemicals, I was looking recently some videos about Wim Hof. It's called the Iceman, and what he does a bunch of basically he's the man from the cold. Like he does a lot of swimming in the cold water with ice, fucking trekking in the mountains is super cold, taking cold showers. So all of that I've heard, the cold water especially, and actually boosts your morale and it releases some endorphins, some chemistry, etc. So I
Okay.
mean, I'm not a specialist, but just maybe just exposing yourself to some cold water like
Mm-hmm.
really can boost up your morale, like a cold shower or something like that. Or but well, Wim Hof take it to another level. He immerses himself in some ice and he just stays there for like an hour, but that's a whole other level. But
Yeah, that's another level that I don't know about now, but I'm telling you, that's what he probably uses, and it works for him. But like I
yeah,
said, it's different strokes for different folks.
yeah, but it's really some chemical about the cold shower. It really changes the like. It's kind of a radical shock. It's kind of like when you go for a jog, then you can feel euphoric or something like that. That sort of
Hmm.
does the same. Like and so I mean I guess that really can boost up your energy level like immediately. That's something
Hmm.
I have found find out. Like just put yourself under a cold shower, stay there for like
Hmm.
5 minutes, and it's you can look it up on the internet. I think you can check it out because I read an article on Tony Robbins like website. You know
Okay.
if you're from United States, and he was
Hmm.
talking about all of the effects of cold shower and the chemicals it released, and and the way it also ultimately strengthened your willpower, your mindset. So he wrote all an article about that. So I think it's pretty solid, some pretty solid evidence, scientific and shit like that. So and it's good for your immune system too. So just
Okay.
saying.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that those five things work for me. As we go on to talk about my story. Now, for me, I was born. When I was born, how would you act if your grandmother came to you now? Your grandmother came to you and said, "Guess what the doctor asked me to do?" And you say, "What?" And the doctor asked my grandmother, "Who do you want to live?" And she's like, "What you talking about?" You're like, "Who do you want to live? Do you want your daughter to live, or do you want your grandbaby to live?" And she had to make a choice for my mom at that time when I was getting ready to be born. At that time, my mom was going and had eclampsia. Eclampsia is where your blood pressure is so high that it affects your functioning to where some people have seizures, they pass out, they go blind somewhat, their vision is blurred, and they have other complications with that. And so that's what was going on with my mom to the point, I guess, my mom passed out and the doctor came to her and asked her, "Who do you want to live?" And my grandmother said, in faith, both of them are going to live. Because my grandmother was a Christian. So in this, the guy performs this procedure, and for some reason, I'm not able to get out of the birth canal. They push me back into my mom's womb and does a C-section on her to where I come out of, the lower part of her stomach. Well, with that, when I came out, I only weighed 2 pounds and 10 ounces. And they
You
immediately
look
put
you
me
look
in.
like a big man now, so hard to imagine.
Tell me about it. But I ended up being placed in an incubator at 2 pounds, 10 ounces. And I got pneumonia also from it all. So, in that, they had to nurse me up to weight and nurse me up to health. And in that, after they did all of that, I I was placed out of the incubator and went with my parents. But let me tell you, this was the size of me, Nagar. I could you could fit me in a baseball cap from head to toe. The inside of a baseball cap was how big I was. So that's just to give you an idea of how small I was when I was born. After that, put me in the incubator. I got better and I went out into the world. Okay. Man, I found out about what birthday cake tasted like. I found out what chicken tasted like, everything, the highlights of life. But with those highlights of life came hurt and pain because I was sexually abused at a young age. And in that, it corrupted my whole entire thinking and how I experienced the world. And so I wasn't just abused by women, I was abused by men also. So it just jacked up my ability to relate to people. Okay. And so I'm growing up because now I'm still small in size and in weight. People bullied me. They talked about me.
So
They
now,
beat me up.
now, how old we're talking about? So you like when the sexual abuse started, and you actually, what you're saying is that you were small in size, like because you had this hard beginning. You came out of your mother like being very small, and they had to fit you up to size and to health. People picked on you because you were small, and at the same time you was inside or interiorly, psychologically, you was broken because you had some form of abuse that came from both women and men, and sort of your trust or your relationship with the world may have become very how can I say, defensive, or
Hardened.
or you couldn't trust anyone really, or so I don't know how that feel. I just don't want to, but if you can just I know this is maybe a very painful memory for you, but if you can just, because I believe it's important for other people who may have not come out of that situation on top, if they can see that, that your story may be an inspiration. So please, Wendell, go ahead, and I leave you the world, please.
Well, I can tell you, I remember this vividly at the age of 3 or 4, because that's how often it was occurring to me. And so I didn't have a say so in saying yes or no. It was more like it's done. It's forced on me. And so in that, I felt like I didn't have no way of being in control. And so in that, man, it felt terrible. But yet, the confusing part about this is, though it was terrible, it made me feel accepted as a person. But now I'm a person that's being used for other purposes of someone else's pleasure, if that makes sense. And man, it was that I want the attention, but yet I don't know what the attention is for. And look how it's affecting my relationship with other people. So those dynamics are
But
going on.
obviously, when you're like 3 or 4, you couldn't like rationally think about all of that. You just remember you have these memories, confused memories. And was this like from people that were in your circle, or people that were supposed to be there to maybe protect you, or you did, or to that you would like normally you would normally trust, like, or were these like other random people?
Those it was people who were friends with the family. That type of thing was going on. People whose children you are introduced because your children, but yet these children were older than me. And so, hey, I see another kid that's older than me now, but yet, hey, they're kids. So, hey, let's go play, let's socialize. But yet, these things were occurring to me. And so, confusion is the best word you have used in that. And you are confused because you think that this is the way that everybody is communicating, and that actions and behavior continued on for some point in time until we moved away, type of thing. And but yet still, that in my mind was, this is how we communicate, this is how people connect with one another. Okay. And so it was rough, to say the least. But yet, you
And
sort of like,
this went on up until when? Like you're 12, 13, 15, 9, 10, 12, I don't know. I'm just
it's
guessing.
it's to my teenage years, because within that, like I said, I being picked on, being beat up by other people, and just low self-esteem going on there, confusion. I remember I was a
And
poor student.
and at the same time, you had your mother who was very vulnerable, right? Because she was suffering from all of these mental issues of her own. And did you ever feel like betrayed, like she couldn't be there or protect you or anything, like for what was going on, or
At
sort
one
of?
point, at one point, I felt that way and thought that way. But yet, my mom is spectacular still. Although she had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, she did not allow that necessary to define who she was and what she was about. My mom became a nurse practitioner, which is a person that's underneath a doctor and in rank, if you will. And so she could do um, suturing, she could do diagnosis, she prescribed medications, she did all those things because she didn't allow the bipolar disorder to define what she could do. Okay. So in that, my mom was busy doing a career and making a career, making our lives, my sister and I lives better, and everything. My dad was there also. And
So
it's
your
it's
dad,
it's just
your father was there, and so they were not aware of the situation, what was going on. They sort of
no, they didn't have no idea that it was going on because I didn't say anything to them.
so
you
you
know,
you you kind of put on some sort of
facade.
a sort of facade. Okay, no one knew this was going on. This was going on from other people, adults, but you talk also about other children who were picking on you. So were they also older children like abusing you, or was it just were they sexually abusing you, or was it more rather like physical violence? Like,
It was
parenting
older.
role? Mm.
It was older children who were doing both. They would beat me up, but yet also others would um try to have sex with me.
Okay, okay,
These are older teenagers compared to a 5, 6 year old, and they're
okay,
13, 14, growing up, learning about their sexuality. But
okay,
they're putting that on a 5 or 6 year old. You,
okay.
you, you know,
So there was
and
no adults in like involved in that, or were there some adults too? Like
no,
these were
these were
teenagers.
older. Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
you were just kind of left there. They were maybe supposed to look after you, and then it wasn't that way. So okay, uh,
But my parents was there, but I did me myself. I did not let them be aware
okay.
of that until much later on in
Because it
life.
also, you
I
have to
mean,
think, it started like very early with you, like so the trauma and the chaos and all of that from what you're telling me
hmm
started like really early, so that you got fucked up. Basically they fucked you up like very early, like psychological and all that. So then you was talking, your mother went on, she became a nurse, a medic, you grow up. So this was going on up until your teen, when you were
yes.
13, 14, and you said you were a poor student. Let's start from there.
So in that, I mean, when I say a poor student, I mean I was making F's. It's the last grade, and I could only go up to C's. So C's, D's, and F's, that was my range. Nothing more, nothing less. And in that, my parents would drill me about, doing well in school and all that, but yet I just wasn't comprehending. And I remember having to go to a reading center to help me to read and comprehend what was going on as far as what I was reading and all of that. And it was tough. It was rough for me. And I remembered being in the 8th grade, and my my mom had put me in a oratorical contest, and I talked about the electric light bulb. And believe it or not, I won the contest, the oratorical contest. And in that, it made me look at myself a little bit different, as to saying, wow, people like me for what I've just done. And they're cheering me and clapping and all of that. And I was like, wow, I never have experienced this before.
So regarding like abuse and violence and sexual violence, I was talking, I think it was a couple of months ago, with a former high-ranking policeman from Italy, and he was involved in a lot of investigation, including going after molester and abusers. So he passed through various departments. He did some investigation. I think also it was on arms and firearms. So he was sharing a part of his story, and yes, he ended up after the investigation, for what he was telling me. Now I don't know
hmm
if there is the full podcast. It's out there, but anyway. It's in Italian. You couldn't look it. That he came out traumatized, like as an officer, when he just left the job. He came out traumatized, like needing for help, because that he had seen like so much crime and things going on, that like it was like too much, like. And so yeah, that's just to connect with. Yeah. So now you
hmm
you entered in the you entered
Oratorical.
in the oratorical. You have your kind of moment of success. You're kind of shifting the boat. At that point, you're still, however, you're still playing a facade in reality, because I don't know, you haven't talked to a therapist, you haven't sort of faced your demons, okay, from what you're telling me. What happens from there to your graduation, to when you get a profession, up until when you fall into deep depression? And were you already depressed, like were you going already through depression, or what was going on?
So as we go on with the story, I went to high school, and in that, even though I found this new feeling of, wow, I can do something, it went to that. I went to all Catholic elementary school, and now I'm being in a uh, non-Catholic um, middle school. And in that, they let you dress, pretty much any way you want to, but I went from a uniform to figuring out, okay, what things I can wear. And man, I got picked on for that and beat up for that. Um, and the whole thing just went down again. My expectation and schooling, and it just went down again, man. And it was just, man, it was hard with that adjustment, from going to elementary school to middle school. And I remembered I was trying so hard in school that I decided to plagiarize out of a book and turn it in as me doing that work for this teacher. And it was my biology teacher, right? She got there, she started reading it, and she said, say this word. And I couldn't say the word. She says, tell me what this word means. And I
So
couldn't
you
tell her
you
what
had
the
you
word
had
meant.
some sort of learning disability, let's say, maybe due to your circumstances or something like that. It affected your mind the way you were learning. Uh,
Some to do with that, yes.
and a part of it, you
But
were cheating with your exams or trying to get by. Your self-esteem crashed. So it had something to do with that.
well, in that, I wasn't doing well in school, so the teacher asked me to do a project to get extra credit, you know. And in that, I did the assignment, but once again, I plagiarized. I copied straight from the book onto the report and handed the report to the teacher. And the teacher knew that I did it because when she said, say this word, and I couldn't say it, and she said, tell me the definition of this word, and I couldn't tell her, not due to my learning disability, but because I really didn't know, because all I did was just plagiarized it and gave it in. But this is the point that I'm trying to make with this teacher. This teacher challenged me from there. She said, what is wrong with you? You are a smart student. Why are
So I
you
can
even
see like
doing this?
from behind you have like sort of some. I think you have a green screen or you have something on. It must be a green screen
Uh-huh.
you have, and I
Oh,
can see
okay.
your book. You have some sort of book that you're showing there. Sometimes when you move, I don't know, you can see it doesn't work anywhere. But anyway, that's your book on what's your book called?
It's called There's No Health Without Mental Health Anthology.
Okay, and like
Men,
on this other side, there is there mental issues. No, say it again. I'm sorry. There is no health
there, there is no health without mental health
anthology.
anthology.
And then on the other side, you have kind of a picture of you when you were a small kid or something like that. I don't know. There's like a circle with a picture.
Oh,
Uh,
that's that's just me at the bottom of the circle.
okay, okay, that's just you. Okay, 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 okay.
Yeah. Let me do this then. Let me take it off.
No, it's not like because sometimes when you move, it kind of
Uh-huh.
shakes. Like it messes with your image. That's why. Okay.
There you go. Is that better for you?
Okay. That's the real. That's the
That's
real.
my real background.
That's the real. Yeah, that's much more clear because at least when you move,
Okay.
you don't have
Uh-huh.
that camera. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's much better.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. No problem. I'm sorry about that.
yeah.
It's
But it's good.
it's
Like
okay.
you can put it back at the end, like when we get to the end, so we can see your book again if you want.
Because
Uh,
that if you look over
yeah, but
in
anyway, I'll
this,
add I'll add all of the links. So I'm
okay.
sorry I was interrupting you. So you had a teacher who challenged you and make you understand that basically you could believe in yourself. Did from
Base.
there your did your career as a student changed? Was it a defining moment?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, but it was one of the defining moments to where I started doing better in school.
okay,
And in that, with doing better in school, it gave me the confidence to want to go to college. And I ended up graduating with not just better grades, but it was the A's, the B's, and the C's now. It wasn't no longer the D's and the F's. And so, with that teacher challenging me, I got better and it forced me to go to college. But once I got to college, I was too caught up in trying to be liked that
okay.
I tried to be in a fraternity. It didn't go well. I tried another fraternity. I ended up being threatened by that fraternity because I didn't go through with the initiations and all of that goes with that. And I got on academic probation, not just once, but twice there. And I decided to go.
What is academic probation? I don't know. Like we don't know what it is. Like
Academic probation means that my grades were so low that they decided to put me on not
that's
a
either you fix your whatever your academic grades within a certain amount of time, or that's it. You're gone,
there
buddy.
you go.
Something like that.
Right.
Okay.
There you go.
So then you were
And
busy trying to get accepted by all these other students instead of studying. So that is basically the synthesis.
yep.
Okay, okay.
And so I went to another school. I went to another school, and there I excelled even more because they didn't have the partying. At least it's not upfront partying. They didn't have the sororities or the fraternities or anything like that. It was a Christian school, so all I could do was study and do sports and all of that. And so that's what I did. And my grades went up immediately to A's and B's. But then I had a hernia operation. And having that hernia operation, I didn't recover well. And it caused me to go home because I got on academic probation again, twice there. But then they said, no, you go home. And I had to go home with all the shame, the hurt, the pain of looking like a failure to my parents. And man, it hurt bad to be sent home. And so I'm dealing with this type of rift of going
So at
into
that time,
depression.
you were studying psychology. You did not complete. They sent you back at home, and that's when you fell into depression.
Yep, I started.
That's when
That's
you
where I started.
started. Okay. So
But
when
I didn't get it addressed though.
okay, you didn't get it addressed. So when did you because you did you end up ever did you ever completed your university or what happened?
I ended up going back to college and getting my psychology degree. But in that, I also got married, and I
Okay.
had gotten a job with the state of Georgia in psychology and was doing well, you know. But
Okay.
then
You so but
after that,
still you hadn't addressed the your own personal issues, like you hadn't faced them. Okay. I wanna get to that.
so now comes the part where I've the even though I got a degree, the paying of the payment is not good because of that one degree. Also, I ended up getting a divorce, and in that divorce, there was what is called in America an arrears. An arrears is placed on you when you're not paying child support. Okay, because I did have a son during that time, and with the divorce came, you got to pay child support.
It's this
Well,
one on the picture. I can see there's a photo with you with is that your son? Like
that's Mr. Kevin Hines.
okay,
That's the
okay,
guy that jumped off the Golden State Bridge, and he's the important reason why I'm
okay,
I'm
okay.
alive today. What did you say?
No, just I lost you for 1 minute. The camera went off, so you was talking about depression, your divorce, You got your degree in psychology. You just got a one degree, but I don't know, things weren't going too well for you because you couldn't pay for child support, or maybe you had some financial issues, something around that.
Okay.
So from there, what happened? When did you meet this other man? When did your life basically got sort of in line, and sort of when did you actually make a turning
All
point?
right. And so in this, I started going to work and everything, and my depression symptoms are coming up to the point of my performance in the job is going down. And um, it ends up that once I get this letter from this agency, child agency, saying that I owed child support, and I didn't. It was a lie, and I had to prove my innocence and all of that. Proved it, but yet it was the straw that broke my back, because here it is. I'm not feeling good about myself. I have low self-esteem, and this person only wants money from me, my ex-wife. And that's how I looked at it. I was like, I want to help them out. I'm going to take my life. They can have the child support. They can have the life insurance. They can have all of it, because I'm tired of living at this point. I'm tired of being rejected. I'm tired of people just messing over on me. I'm just tired. So to end that hurt and that pain, I decided to take my life. So I made a plan by saying that I was going to get hit by this train. This train always came at this certain time, at this certain day. And so,
Man, that's a good. That sounded like a. I mean, at the time, it must have been a good, good plan, right?
man, I was going to die. I'm telling you, that's the plan I had, was to die when I got hit by this train. And as I'm driving and the train is coming from my on my right hand side, I'm getting to the crossing where the train will go through. Two words came from out of nowhere. I'm telling you, it wasn't inside of me, it was on the outside of me. These two words said, "Your son." And I'm like, that's who I'm doing this for. And the word said again, "Your son." And as I closed my eyes, I let go of the wheel, and the wheel turned to the left. And I spun away, went up an embankment, came down, and hit a tree that was there. And I sat there and I cried for about a good 30 minutes crying.
Okay, so you at that point, like you had all these vulnerable mindset. Your wife had left you. You were like fighting with her, and that was, like you said, enough. That's where the first time when really all that depression, all that trauma came on you, you decided to at that point to commit suicide. You was at the lowest point in your life up until then. Okay, very bad moment of your life. You attempted to commit suicide. I mean, somehow, we don't know why, you thought about your son, so you managed to I mean, you did not die that day. Okay. So from there, what happens? Like what? So you started crying. You had this very very traumatic event. Did that somehow change the course of your life? Because at that point your mindset was like, that's it, was going to end it.
Yep. At this point now, I knew I needed help, and which help that I knew to go get was to go get therapy. And so I went and got therapy, and I hated therapy. I hated the person that was providing therapy, because I felt like they didn't know what they were doing and they weren't helping me. It's sort of like in America, Eddie Murphy was in this movie called Coming to America, and in that he was supposed to be marrying this lady who was designed personally for him to be married to, And it was like he would ask her, so let me ask you before we get married here, what do you like? And she said, whatever you like. And he say, no, 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 no. What's your favorite
So
color?
you found a therapist that wasn't your fit. He was just doing too much by the book. You couldn't relate with him. It was maybe
Her.
with
It was a
her.
her.
Was a her. You couldn't really relate with her. So did you try various therapies from there? Did you change various therapists, or did you
I
just
said,
went?
screw, wait, the guy, I said, screw it. I ain't doing this no more. And I left it. And for years, although I still dealt with depression, and due to the stigma and the fear of someone admitting that they had a mental health disorder, oh no, sir, I was not going to be one of those persons to be vulnerable and come out honest like that. And so I left therapy, and I wanted to take medications, but I was too afraid of that because of the side effects that I knew that medication presented. And so for
So
years I
yeah,
went on.
some meditation. I'm not an expert, but like they fucked up. They fuck up people like really. Sometimes they. I don't know. Like you see some people who were on some medication have taken. I don't. I like. I'm not an expert, but it's they can be pretty
Man, it
invasive. With side effects and shit. So I mean, I
man,
guess probably
it
some are good. I don't know. Some medication are probably good. I
now
don't know.
it's different strokes for different folks. Some medications work well for people, and other medications don't work well for people. And I decided to take medication. Do you know it was the most horrible thing I've ever experienced, where it felt like the world was going at its own pace, and I was in that world moving in slow motion, and everything was going by me, and I still felt like I was going slow. It scared me so much that I quit taking the medication. And I remember going a while without this, and I'm feeling terrible. And at this point in time, I go and meet Kevin Hines at a mental health symposium. He tells his story about him jumping off
So Kevin Hine, I don't know him, but from what I understand, he's an expert in therapy in mental health,
suicide.
in suicide, specifically in suicide. Go ahead, tell his story.
I met him, and he told a story about how he had bipolar disorder, and it was driving him nutty, to the point where he was in so much pain, emotional pain, mental pain, and causing him physical pain, to the point where he wanted to end it all. And so he went to San Francisco Bridge. That's where he lived in California, the Golden State Bridge. And he decided that he was going to jump off that bridge and kill himself because he wanted the pain to stop. And in this, he said, if one person will just talk with me, just ask me what's wrong, I won't do it. And this lady from another country, we think it was Germany, she comes and she say, hey, you. And he says, oh man, this lady is going to ask me how I'm doing. I'm happy. I'm happy. And she said, hey, will you take my picture with the Golden State Bridge? And he's like, you gotta be kidding me, right? You want me to take your picture? Don't you see I'm in pain,
Like,
hurt?
isn't that kind of like a selfish attitude? Like, when you are in that mindset, like blaming on other people and all of that, is because like you must be mentally broke, right? Because that's like
Mm,
an unrealistical expectation, right? Because like obviously the other person is just some person who's crossing by, doesn't know you. You're just a random person. You look perfectly fine. Like if you're not sharing your story, you look perfectly fine.
mm-hmm.
So that's really I mean that's I believe that can be an example to understand just the mindset of someone who's going through that process.
Well, the main thing is he wanted his pain to stop.
Uh,
That's the main thing of it. And in that, he was wanting help, but he felt like he couldn't get it at that time. In that, he jumps off the bridge and he's He's jumping off and he's falling. And he says, "What am I doing in the midst of falling, getting ready to hit the water?" He's like, "I don't want to die. I really do want to live. I want to live, but it's too late." He hits the water and he has torn up his back and some of his legs. And in that, his
So what is the
story
name
reson
of these persons? So maybe if people are interested, they can Google him or find out if verify the story, all that. What's the name of this person that jumped off the bridge?
his name is Kevin Hines.
Okay, Kevin
And
Hyde jumped off the bridge. He attempted suicide. You go to his seminar. Now finally, you and him have something in common. You both attempted suicide. So now maybe you can relate to this person. That's when your therapy starts. Explain the process of your healing. You're still on that journey, from what we have understood, what you told me, from the beginning. Because like me and Wendell, we have met on the Facebook. In I was on through Facebook.
the black
The Black Book webinar that was done by
webinar.
McConnell Sankofa, which I interviewed. I
Hmm.
interviewed him like totally randomly, and then I went on, like started. There was like a Black Book webinar, like this McConnell Sankofa invited me, just a bunch of writers that were there virtually, and then I went on and interviewed like almost all of the authors that were present that day. So I like I've never heard this story before. Like it's new for me. So go ahead explaining your healing process, your recovery process, and your relationship with what do you say? I mean, I'm really bad with names, like Kevin.
Kevin
Kevin
Kevin Hines.
Kevin Hines, your relationship with Kevin Hines and how he saved your life. Please, Wendell, go ahead.
And so it ends up, man, that after I hear his story, I we were able to relate. And I went up and I started crying and I shook his hand. I say, "Man, you saved my life." And he says, "What you mean?" I say, "You have saved my life. You made me look at suicide in a different way. What happens if I survive my attempt? You have changed my mind about suicide because I was thinking about committing suicide again." Okay. And in this, he said, "Hey, let me get your name. Let me get your number, all this." I say, "Sure." But other people were around. And so I just faded out in the crowd and thinking that I would never see this guy never again in my life until the next year came. And he came up to where my second job is, where I'm a field care consultant on a mobile crisis team. And we go out in the neighborhoods and in the community to help people with mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disabilities. He comes there because he's doing a movie to talk about, one, you're not alone in the thoughts that you feel and that you think, and that there are resources in your community that can help you. And so he comes to my job, and he talks about the mobile crisis team. He talks about the call center that's 24/7 and that you can call to get help for mental health issues and substance abuse and all of that. But he sees me and he says, "I know you." I say, "Yeah, I know you too." And he says, "You that guy that I met at the seminar?" And I said, "Yeah." And I say, "Man, you saved my life." He said, "You never told me how though." This guy stops and says, "Wait a minute. I want to get this in my movie that we're doing. It's called Suicide, the Ripple Effect." In this, it talks about people who want to commit suicide and how that there are other things that you can do. This guy allowed me, a nobody, to be a part of his documentary that's been shown internationally now, that's hit all 7 continents and is saving people's lives.
So, what is the name of this documentary? And so that people can go maybe watch it or find it. People that are interested, they can, or people who have like really a need for this. Uh,
It is called Suicide, the Ripple Effect
okay,
by Kevin Hines.
Suicide: The Ripple Effect by Kevin Hine. and you are featured
Hmm.
in this documentary. I suppose there must be, if it's maybe done or structured in chapters, there must be a small chapter where you share your story, and that serves as
Well,
a, I don't know how that works. What role did you play? Actually, let's shift this to a question. What role did you play in this documentary? Um, that's the question.
I played myself actually, and I just let him know how he changed my life in thinking about committing suicide. And he put that in his film. And so it was a filming crew that was showing it. And in that, I tell him how that you changed my perspective on staying alive. That what happened if I did this and I'm maimed or injured for the rest of my life? I have brought the consequences of more hurt and pain on me. So the best thing I can do is face this and work on my wellness. That's what he did for me.
So he helped you somehow change, shifted your mindset, and helped you to take like increasing responsibility and for yourself. Because like I don't know anything about that, but like from what you're telling me, it's like really it's about really taking responsibility and probably shifting your mindset, and being part of the community certainly is important. But like we said, like you was telling me the story of the breach, like you cannot blame other people for what's going on, because like if people don't hear your story, they will never know. So I
Yeah.
guess what's really good is that you, at least you guys, people, if people can be in a group where they can share and they can talk, that's probably the most helpful thing. uh
That you're not alone.
yeah,
You're not
that's
alone. You think you're alone, but you're not alone.
mm.
And that's what helped us to connect. And that's what helped bring me out even more to have the courage to start facing and being responsible for me. And in that, I was able to connect just not with him, but also with a supervisor who saw my job performance go down. Her name is Teresa Johnson. And Teresa Johnson shared her story of how she was depressed, how she was taking medication, all because the death of her parent, her mother had died, and she was out of it. And with her listening non judgmentally and saying, you know what, Wendell, I think you could use the help of medications. Will you give it another try? And I said, yes. I found that medication that I've been with for now 4 years that helps me. It doesn't make me feel slow. It doesn't make me feel like the world is around me going fast and all that. It really does help me. So
So
I
you feel, well,
encourage those
how
who
you
might,
feel? You feel like stable,
man,
you
I
feel normal, like when you're at your best, like kind of just things are just normal, and it's a medicine that
I don't
works for you.
that medicine helps me to stay focused, concentrate. I'm not all over the place. Sort of up, down, up, down, up, down in feelings. I'm a constant, and in that, for 4 years now, I've been taking Zoloft, and it's helped me. I can't say that it helped you. I
Okay,
can't say
so
that it helps.
like we said, like you said Zoloft, like, but however, like you said at the beginning, it's different for like every person. It's different, and every person has a different journey, different body, etc. So, I mean, I guess whoever has this type of problem, they have really to make their own research, find a therapist that
Mhm.
works for them, find someone that really connects with them, or find some sort of, I don't know, for some people could be religion, for some people could be, some sort of something, whatever works for them. And once they find that, just do it, because really I think no one like can really tell you what pills, what's good for you, like unless you're in the situation, right? So I'm
But let
just
me tell you, hey, for me, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Those things that I do for me, that holistic approach. Now, nigga, I myself, I don't drink and I don't use drugs. Why? Because they mess up my mind and my head. So I chose that. Now, many people, other people might not, but I have, and my life is going great. That's the reason when we are talking about the
So did
The
you ever
five
go in
things.
therapy, like talking to someone, or did you ever like do like what you mean, like because I know like you're eating healthy, so that's one thing. Drinking a lot of water, you're dealing with your apnea while you sleep, so you are approaching that, addressing that. Sorry, not approaching. You're taking these pills that apparently that work good for you. You have taken them for 4 years. So you have found a right fit so that you can go on and have just be accountable at your on your workplace and proceed with your career. So now I want to talk about therapy. Have you approached someone? Are you talking to some people? Like, are you what's going on? Do you have someone there that you go weekly or on a monthly basis? Did you just talk?
Yes, his name is Nathan, and Nathan is an African American male that I chose to work with, and not a female. And he's a black man that understands the black man plight of trying to cope with life. You know,
Is that you being a man or a female for what you've been through? Is that a factor, like a reason why you chose him? Like it's easier for you to relate because
yes.
he's a
I
man
mean,
and
for me,
you
it's,
feel like it's
you
more
know,
understanding, or it's just
some
more
people
like
can
okay,
relate to anybody.
or he's just
You
like
know, some people.
yeah, I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry, man.
or he's just like a more compassionate, or somehow you had a more connection with him. Just go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, I wanted a black male who understood the black male's plight here, possibly in America, because America ain't no easy place to be in. Man, they're racist and they don't like black people. They feel like we are taking over. They feel like we're doing a dishonor and justice to them as Americans, and man, that's a
When
whole
you say
different
they,
spectrum.
when you say they, you mean there is a certain group of people or that don't
Hmm.
feel very they're not very happy about black people or just don't understand that culture who are very racist. So within America, there's a group of people or certain individual that first they feel a certain way toward black people, and that kind of affect you. So you chose
Yeah,
these therapies because you felt that because he was an Afro-American man, he could understand you better because somehow he not only he was your therapist, but he was going through some of the same situation that you face through daily basis, such as maybe the police brutality or the fear, at least this anxiety that you may be subject to some sort of brutality or some sort of discrimination, right? Because if
correct.
you're not like I'm just saying, even if you're not subject to this type of violence directly, because it's maybe it's happening so often and it's so much out there on the media, sometimes you may feel this anxiety. Or have you ever suffered some racist episode like on your workplace, or did you ever like were you lucky enough not to did you experience racism in your life, or not,
Oh yeah, man, man,
like
man, I've
specifically?
experienced racism like you wouldn't believe. Uh, from the second college that I went to, it was a predominantly white college. To when I got home from college and working, I had people to call me uh, the N word so many times.
So what year were you born in, like
Man, I was born in 1969, so it
so
was
you,
the height of the civil rights movement.
so you're from 69, so you must have gone to college like in the 90s, so something
Yeah,
around the 90s. So you during that period you were experiencing like people calling you names and trying to bully you, or either on the bus or on the when you were going back
I mean,
home or at school
at the grocery store, of
at the
all
grocery
places, at a
store.
grocery store, where a 5-year-old kid looked up at me, white kid, and said, "Ooh, a N word," and then his sister, maybe 7 or 8 years old, looked at him and grabbed his hand and said, "Come on, let's go," and ran to where their parents were in the grocery store. I
Okay,
experienced this,
okay. Did you experience that
and then
from
on
like
the
from
job.
Experience that's
And
like
then
from
on the
adult.
job, I
Yeah.
had a supervisor to get up there, man. I had a supervisor to get up there and say, all y'all just look alike. You know that, right? All y'all black folks look alike. A supervisor told me
Yeah.
that.
That sounds like a friendly dude. Like he sounds friendly, like someone you would want to have for lunch.
Man,
So
but these are the
that's so
things that
that's
I
so that's a group of black people of people of color that's working together, and you have one supervisor who's obviously white, who's like treating everyone like names and okay. So that must have been traumatic. Did you ever experience that, like when you were younger, like when you was because now I suppose you don't care because you're like almost 50, so you just probably don't give a fuck, right? But mm, I don't.
but man, let me tell you,
So
with all of this, with me doing those things that we've been talking about,
So let's
it is
excuse because you said you're black. You said racism. So you think like did racism somehow contribute to your maybe feeling of isolation or feeling you couldn't talk to anyone or did that was that part of somehow of your traumas?
it was a part of my thinking. I can tell you that because here it is. One, I'm African American, so in our race, we have to be strong at all times. We can't let people get us down. We have to show this type of strength at all times. But yet, not only am I African American, but I'm a male. I'm a man. And so, therefore, I really have to man up, as they say, and look strong and not show any vulnerability or breakage in being strong. And that's where I'm approaching it differently as far as being vulnerable and saying
Okay,
that, hey, I don't know it all.
so going through mental health therapy, etc., because you are in that culture of an African American, because you have to display always your strong, this idea that you're strong mentally, physically, all that. Um, um, because of the you're part of this, because you're in America, and there is racism. Maybe you are always somehow on the defensive because you have to look out for yourself. You navigate the environment differently that somehow it got you maybe you if like it's harder as a black person to actually admit that you have a problem, that you need to be vulnerable, that you need to talk to people, that you need to approach some of your own issues such as mental health. I mean, talking about mental health in the Asian community or talking in the mental health in the black community or in the white community, it can be three different things, right? It's three different cultures. It's maybe different. I suppose it's same for everyone, but for a black man, it's is it harder for you to admit that you have some problem and you need to talk because you're a black man? You feel that if you were white, it would be easier. If you were part of another culture, it would be easier for you to just face your issues and be sort of vulnerable. Is that a
Yeah,
good question?
it's
I don't
it's a
know.
good
I
question.
don't know how it
And
came out. I'm sorry, guys. Like,
but the thing about it is that culture plays a big part in how you operate, how you do things, how you think, how you respond, how you react. And in the black culture, you don't go to a doctor for any and everything. You might go to the closest thing you might go to for a person in authority is at church, if you use that, or a place of faith-based community. You might use that, but you don't want to be looked or frowned on because you have now came out in public and said, I can't handle this, and you look like you're weak. You look like you're not strong. You look like you're a embarrassment to the race of
so
black
regarding, I
people.
don't want to overshadow your book, but I feel like because this conversation is going to go out there, we may have some audience. At the end, we want to show your book, but regarding medicine and the way black people approach medicine. I'm reading an interesting book which I want to recommend to everyone.
Mhm.
It's not your book, I'm sorry, but it's called Medical Apartheid. It's by Harita A. Washington, and the dark history of medical experimentation on black Americans from colonial times to the present. Okay, that's the cover of the book, and it's an interesting account of maybe some of the reason why people of color in United States, especially, may feel a sense of sort of distance from the medical. They are a little bit more reluctant, from what I'm reading in the book, to actually go to a doctor or trust a doctor, etc. And the argument she makes in her book, Harita A. Washington, is that that is because back in the past, during slavery, there were a lot of abuse that were going on, including unwilling experimentation from part of the medical system in the United States, and that created some sort of fracture or inherited trauma or some idea in black people that they cannot trust doctors because they went through those traumas back when there was slavery. Okay, so that's an
But look at,
interesting book to look at. Okay, just
but
suggesting.
also look at the Tuskegee Air, not the Tuskegee Airmen, but the Tuskegee experiment on black
However, I
people.
just before you say that, I just want to say
Uh,
that I mean, because we are in COVID-19 situation. I mean, we should everyone should follow the procedures that that are given by your local state, your local government. So I'm not trying in any way to I'm just suggesting a book. Yeah,
it's just a book. It's just a
yeah,
book. Give it some information.
yeah,
don't don't want to stir up the natives. Don't want to stir them up, boy.
yeah, yeah. You never know. Like a
But
lot of crazy people that say, "Oh, you see, he wants to."
but the Tuskegee Airmen, not the Tuskegee Airmen, but the Tuskegee experiment where they were giving black men syphilis, and not telling them, so
I
it
think
makes,
that was in here. It was up until the 70s and shit, like
yeah,
90s, 60s, like 65. Like I think it's one of the first chapters on this book. Like some
yeah, and so
elderly people, right? Mm.
here it is, COVID, and they want you to get this vaccine, and people of color are saying, I don't know if I want to take that.
Yeah.
It's
So from this book, you can say that has there's an issue with trust. Like trust must be built between these two community because there is some historical. Like she was talking about, she used a particular word which is not paranoia. It's another word that I'm not a linguist, but it's fear justified by previous experiences. Okay, so that black people have a fear of maybe, for example, one medicine or one cure that actually could be good for them, but they have a fear of that institution because that's justified by previous bad experience. That's kind of
yes,
like, let's say you've been in a relationship with someone, you left her, she, now whatever, and now you have fear of this person because maybe this person have hurt your feelings or something like that. Okay, so that's what black people have going on. They have a real fear of maybe medicine or some things or cures, etc. Of the or rather the white medical institutions, okay, because of previous historical trauma, okay, and you find all that in the book that I've just suggested. She's the expert, not me. That being said, let's go back to your. Let's go back to the story. You're talking about black men in United States being vulnerable, getting
racism,
health,
yeah,
racism, all that.
yeah, and in that you can see why, with all this going on, and with what we were just talking about, you know, who would want to go to a therapist or a doctor or a psychiatrist or people who prescribe medications and things of that nature when some of the history has shown that we don't know if we can trust you? And so that's how it was for me, along with the shame, along with the fear of how would I look as a man if I do this, if I come out and say I have a mental health disorder.
So fear of judgment, fear of what other people, again, because it seems like a pattern in your story, whether that was trying to be accepted at college by fraternities, or whether was trying to draw attention, or again, feel of fear of other people, fear of judgment. Yeah, so that was kind of a barrier, and the culture you were boxed in, and some real fear. So also, like, let's remember the environment. Like, really, the environment was a big part of it, because
Yeah,
that really affects
yeah,
people. The country you're born in, the culture you're born in, all of that. You just some forces you cannot really control that just around you.
yeah. And so with all of this, I made a change. And so the five things that we had mentioned earlier about my health, I've been living that, been doing that, and it's opened up opportunities for me to get certified in different suicide prevention and awareness techniques, such as QPR. It's question, persuade, and refer. You question the person, you persuade them to get help, and then you refer them to the appropriate people to get that help. Um, I've done CALM, which is stating counseling on access to lethal means, meaning guns, knives, medications, or pills that people use to try to take their lives. So I have got a certification in that. I recently just got um, a youth mental health first aid certification. And in that, it teaches adults how to approach children in the ages of 13 or down on how to cope with mental health situations. And so I've been learning, getting trained to help other
So you're
people to
talking,
pass on.
because previously you talked about. I want to go back to the apneas and the way it messes with your learning. Does that can that mess with a kid's learning ability, or with an adult's learning ability, or ability to focus? Not being able to breathe appropriately and going through apnea. Is that Can that affect your school grades or other aspect of your life where focus is required?
Now that I do not know. I'm only speaking from an adult
Okay.
point of view. I don't know about the children. I know that children start start feeling anxious early, and girls start feeling anxious more earlier than boys.
Okay.
And in that, that's where you start getting the eating disorders start coming up, you know. And well, and that's when they're young at like 8, and then you go into puberty and adolescence, and the hormones are raging and changing, and bodies are changing, minds are changing. And so mental health is starting to advance in those areas through anxiety. I got to do good on a test, or I got to do good at this sports event, or all of that starts with the mind being introduced to more stress and pressure, and it causes that person to experience some form of trauma. So, we have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
look
yeah.
at that and study. So,
Mm.
but in this, it led to, with all this certification, it led to the
Okay,
book that
led
we
to the
were
book.
talking about.
So you became, during the years, you became really prepared, and you started giving out courses, seminars on how to, how to diagnose disease, and how to help out people, basically. And all of that process, together with you being connected with an Italian, and all of that, meeting this other person, led to the book. Show me again the book so we can just say the. Yeah, I'm sorry, because I have to. There is no health without mental health. Analogy, man, mental health. Let's talk about it. No silence, no shame, no stigma, no suicide. By Wendell Fields. Okay, that was
and
your
it's
book.
and it's by also Miss Vanessa Abram. She
And
was the one that helped get like 18 guys to come together and share their stories of hope, share their stories of recovery and of strength. And that's where the book came from. It is an Amazon bestseller, you all. Bestseller. First book I ever done. And I'm just like, that's how I met the Black book webinar. And everybody on there. That's how I met the people, and that's how we talked about
So
mental health.
Amazon, people can find it on Amazon. They can find you on social media on Facebook. Maybe some people will read your book, will be touched by your story, that will want to want to get in touch with you, whatever.
Yes, please do.
Or maybe some people who already know you, already in your network, who didn't have the courage to come up to you, or maybe they have maybe some friends or some people they know or relatives that are going through something. They could just maybe they can buy this book, and that book can be good for them. Can be
Yeah.
impactful. Okay, so hopefully
So
will
now,
help someone. So now I want to ask you, as we get toward the end of these podcasts, it's been long. You have dropped a lot of knowledge, talked a lot about your personal experience. You shared some very intimate and tough moments of your life. You are on the good track now. You have, like, you still, you're improving, going on. um, I want you to give three tips, three advice for people who's struggling, who's going through mental health, who's going through trauma, who's going through obstacles in life. So three advice for people who's in need, who's just facing something, who's needing to face obstacles. Go ahead, Wendell, and then we close it.
all right. Well, let me say thank you for letting me be on here and to share my story. Hopefully, it will and has impact your life and as well as others. And the one thing I want to say is this: one, please, ma'am, please, sir, go get an annual physical. Why? Because that's going to give you the opportunity to make good decisions and be responsible about your health and your wellness. Every year, go get that because it's going to help you to be informed, and then you can make informative decisions about how you want to take care of you. So that's number one. Number two, you are not alone. Don't never ever think that you are going through something by yourself. Please, ma'am, please, sir, look for the help. If you don't know where to go to your local authorities and ask, hey, where can I get some support? Where can I get some help in the community? Ask.
If you're
You'll get
black,
answers.
you can call them. If you don't want to, I don't know, want to get if you don't want to get arrested or
Yeah, right, right. But call
just
them.
kidding. I'm
Let
joking.
ask them.
Beautiful authorities that help you out, like lots of good people. There's a silly
And
joke. Yeah.
but just know that there's help out there and you're not alone. And people are willing and want to help you. But you got to speak up and be vulnerable. And my last thing is be honest. If you don't like something, just say you don't, man, I don't like, I can't do that. It's going to open up the ability for you to communicate and get a better understanding of where that person coming from and where you coming from. And once you do that, the barriers will come down to where a person will be persuaded in saying, I think I want to do better. And I think and I want to do better. So how can we do that? You're going to break down barriers when you do that. That's what has helped me to thrive now, to be
Wendell
vulnerable,
Wendell Field. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
to be vulnerable as well as to be honest.
So
It's got me a long
Wendell
way.
Field. Be honest. Be vulnerable. Look for help. Be honest. Thank you very much, Wendell.